Hey everybody, this is the Brothers Wisps number 44. It is April, mid-April. I know you guys are probably mad at us because we missed another one. That was wholly my fault. I apologize. But then again, I don't really care because none of you guys are paying us, so you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. That's what I tell my kids, it works every time. So, joining us today is Greg Soul, me, the lovely, the bald, as it were. All the way from Slovakia, we've got Thomas Kernek.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Every time with the hello, hello. I love it. It's your catchphrase now. And then coming from Chicago way, we've got Mike Hammett.
How's it going?
Excellent. I'm doing well. I don't know about you. All right, so let's jump right in. We've got a ton of stuff. Every time we do this now that we skip one, I guess it's gonna be a deluge, and we missed several things. One of them being the mum, and I kind of added all the equipment at the end. They announced a lot of stuff. But some kind of housekeeping at the top. Let's see, fiberstore.com, fs.com. I'm not sure how many of you folks have never been there, but they're straight out of China. Optics, fiber, patch cables, coarse wave, dense wave, and Mike stumbled upon some dense wave division multiplex education stuff, right? So dense wave, coarse wave, that's where you have one strand of fiber, one pair of fiber, and you just run different light waves across it, right? So you can utilize the existing infrastructure you have more efficiently, so you can get more out of it. And they kind of teach you the ins and outs, and it's pretty cool. They have this little selector, right? So how far do you need to go? You just choose how far you need to go, and they say, here's all the gear, here's all the model numbers to actually make that happen. So it's pretty cool. And I know I've ordered from Fiberstore. I know several other folks that have, and it's fairly decent stuff. Mike also notes that they're now doing free shipping and no tax from North American warehouses.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's just limited to North America, but I mean, either way, it's a good deal.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, their stuff's already inexpensive. Um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah. And on that front, there are there are Chinese places that are even cheaper than Fiberstore, but there's a lot less hand holding. Fiberstore here, on this new, long haul fiber WDM tool, it tells you everything you have to buy to make it happen. These other places, they have all the same components, but you have a very awkward ordering matrix of options. And like they don't tell you, hey, you ordered something stupid, you shouldn't have that. No, like it's just you order what you order and they mail it to you.
right,
And if you ordered something you didn't intend, tough.
nice. So,
Really?
something else I like on Fiberstore is if you ever start looking at their coarse wave, right? So coarse wave does fewer channels over existing fiber, whereas dense wave you can pack more in. But if you look at their muxes, so we call them colored optics, right? The different light waves are different colors, and they actually so on the mux it'll have a little plastic bezel that's a specific color, and then if you buy the colored optic that matches from Fiberstore, it's got a plastic bezel that matches the color plastic. I think that's super cool for idiots like
Yeah.
myself. Color goes to
Yeah.
color.
Yeah. Well, it's a quick, troubleshooting. If something's not working right, okay, colors match. Moving on.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you don't have somebody local or you're sending out a tech, you can just say, all right, the colors match, right? So, or if they're patching something new, it kind of makes it a little bit more idiot proof. I think that's pretty cool. Um,
Just, yeah. I just hope they're not colorblind.
yeah, for sure. So let's see, moving on. One, I thought, I don't know if this necessarily germane to anything we do, but I thought it was really interesting. It was an Ars Technica article about some inmates in a prison, I think in Ohio, maybe,
I think so. Yeah.
middle America somewhere, that built some PCs out of scrap, and they like basically transported all of these pieces across the prison and then hid them inside of a training room attic so that they could. I think they said it was full of porn and like hacking tools and stuff like that, so that they could basically get around the prison's firewall. I thought that was ingenious, right? So most of the wisps I work with, most of the wisps I know, they're all MacGyvers at heart, right? Where you're rigging everything together and you're kind of duct tape, baling wire, making things happen. So I kind of admire the spirit ingenuity that those guys had.
So the story was, right, that they were supposed to recycle the old unused PCs, but they were doing it unsupervised. So, why not just build a bunch of functional PCs out of the stuff that they were supposed to recycle?
Yeah,
And actually,
absolutely.
some of the things that because they networked them, there were actually they built quite a few PCs, hid them in like under the ceilings and everywhere, and they actually networked them together. And some of the stuff on there was actually quite scary. There were manuals how to build bombs and explosives and all, and of course how to make drugs and how to cook various, But just imagine it, how they even got onto the internet and onto the prison's network.
It's
Did they
awesome.
just plug it into a switch or
Yeah, I think they said that
how?
they got tipped off because, like, a vendor's access credentials or somebody like that, they saw a spike in network traffic or something due to that
Yeah,
those
yeah.
credentials. So then they ended up, I think they said it took them a while, maybe a couple months, but ended up tracking Ethernet cables and following them into the ceiling. But one of the things I thought they said on there too was they were researching plastics. Maybe that was just a typo, or how to make plastic or something like that. I was like, why? What's the point of that?
Plastic explosives, maybe.
Oh, maybe it was. Or I was thinking maybe they were trying to like, because it seems like there's enough plastic in there, you could make a shank out of something. I don't know. Maybe it was plastic explosives. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I admire the ingenuity. I guess it's probably not the best thing to admire them for, but I don't know, silver linings. At least they're staying busy, right? Idle hands, sort of thing. They're learning a
Yeah.
valuable skill. Um, let's see. I'm gonna skip that one because it's super boring. Mimosa C5 security updates. So it looks like C is for client, correct? Client 5 gigahertz, and so there were some security updates, and they have a patch for that, right?
It, yeah, but I don't remember what it was for because I don't have any, so I didn't care that much. But it's nice to see people, making security releases. Not just waiting for the next feature release to get something out there.
For sure, for sure.
For sure, for sure.
And I don't know how good they are about notifying all of their customers. So I always like plugging it whenever you see a security hole. If we're the source that you hear that from, and you go and update, all the better for it. Um, moving
Yeah,
right
there's
along, unless you have anything else to say about it.
also like there's still people that haven't figured out that there's a ubiquity vulnerability from a year and a half ago. I still see people posting about getting infected
Yeah, it's
of the
crazy.
same infection that's been around for a year and a half.
It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just have their head down in the sand. Um, and for a long time, I was too. I didn't listen to a lot of resources and stuff like that, and most of the time, I just get used to the noise coming out of you. You're just a wall of noise, Mike, and so I ignore most of it. So this is kind of a good
That's
way
real
for me to
fair.
catch. Yeah, right. Occasionally, there's a good nugget that spews out. But no, that's where I get most of my industry news. Actually, is reading the notes that you put up. Uh, so it's a good source. It's a great source, honestly. Um, let's see. Unimus. We got Thomas on here. We could talk a little about Unimus. He added Cumulus support among other things. I'm sure. I think there were some database updates as well. Or maybe you added support for more databases? I can't remember. You tell us, Thomas.
Yeah, we added support for PostgreSQL, but that was, I think, about a month ago, actually, by this point,
Yeah.
which is, yes. And then, yeah, we added Cumulus, and actually, we also added support for SSH keys. Quite a few people were requesting that, and it's an obvious feature which needs to be present, so, yeah.
Gotcha. How long did the Postgre how do you say that? Do you say PostGRE or PostGra, or how do you pronounce it?
PostgreSQL.
PostGra. How long did it take you
That's how
to?
I say it. That might not be the correct way. That's
Well,
just
I
how
don't
I say
know.
it.
That's how I've always sort of said it. How do you? How long did it take you to implement that? Like 5-10 minutes?
So no, that was actually not me directly implementing it. I am not an SQL expert by far. So that was one of our other programmers doing it. And his joke was that Postgre is like the special child between the SQL databases because it was giving him just problems on every single step. Like the things that are very easy to do in other databases, of course it would not work in Postgres. So I think altogether to add Postgres support was about a week of work.
Christ. All right, well, good.
But like this is actually only because we actually use a entity framework. If we weren't using an entity framework, then it would be like project for a month. But it's basically an abstraction framework that abstracts you from writing database queries and directing and interacting with the database directly. You use the entity framework for that, and it just makes your life easier.
Nice, nice, very cool. Anything else you'd like to talk about Unimus? Any new updates coming in the pipe that we should be excited about?
So yeah, we actually have 033 coming out this week, which brings the SSH key support and Cumulus and all that. And actually, we are pretty sure we have a strategy, a plan for actual release for 1.0.0 that's now on the forums that deals with our beta users and how beta accounts will be migrated to production accounts and all of that. So if any of the guys listening are still running a beta Unimus account, just visit our forums. There is all the information regarding beta and release on there. And yes, we are currently planning, and it seems like it's actually fairly realistic that we will have a full 1.0.0 production ready approved release in May.
Rock and roll, man. That's awesome, dude.
I have no idea what I'm running. On either of my accounts. I guess I got two. One for my WISP, one for the IX. And I have no idea. I'll look into it sometime.
All right, so moving right along, kind of on that Cumulus rant, Mike put up something about free range routing. It's an open source project. I believe it's a recent fork of Quagga. And I know most people in the industry try and attempt not to do a fork, right? So it's sort of, I guess that it's frowned upon, right, to fork a project, but Quagga, I think, has been in decline for a while and is just
sometimes the product is just forked.
Yeah, well, I mean, from my understanding is there haven't been any updates. It's basically just kind of become stagnant, and Cumulus and a lot of other people out in the world and the big bad internet wanted to use it, and so they forked it so they could gain a little bit more control. I think it's part of the Linux Foundation now, right, where that's sort of twofold. Either you go to the Linux Foundation to get some structure, so that the community can kind of grow in a controlled manner, right? There's some checks and balances in there, or it's somebody who's decided to abandon a project and they just leave it in the Linux Foundation and say good luck to you. I think it's the former rather than the latter in this case. Cumulus, I think apparently is on the first release or the very near release of free range routing. They're going to implement that into their code base, so they're going to start using it. I think they had some other people's contributions in there. Let's see, Big Switch, Orange, LabIn, NetDef, Volta, 6Wind. I mean, so there's some other people backing it. So I like the idea of this because Quagga, I know, was very Cisco centric, right? It configured and if you could say it's industry standard CLI. So if you're familiar with Cisco, you could pick up and start using Quagga. So hopefully they kind of continue that as well in this FRR moving forward. I'm interested to kind of see where it goes. I mean, it's going to do most of your big stuff, your BGP, your ISIS, LDP, OSPF, PIM, RIP. So you're going to be able to do MPLS with this and all the other good stuff. Maybe Mikrotik's version 7 routing engine will be based off of FRR. Who knows?
If it ever happens.
No, when it happens, right?
To me, it's actually interesting because currently Cumulus doesn't have MPLS or VPLS support. So maybe they're hoping to actually, use this even for full feature MPLS, VPLS implementation inside of Cumulus.
That's what it looks like. It looks like this is their holy grail. So it'll be interesting.
It's a very interesting choice to keep it open source, then, though.
Yeah,
I mean, from a business perspective, Cumulus being, I know they are built on Linux and they work with open source tools, but it's still a interesting and very commendable, very good choice.
That well, like with Ubiquity, like last year, moving their routing platform over to a Zeb OS based platform that comes with IP infusion that adds a whole bunch of MPLS and Metro Ethernet functionality. Seems like there's quite a few good projects out there to choose from, and this one might be another one of those once they get some of the Quagga issues worked out.
Yeah, I think it was probably Greg from the Packet Pushers. I think he said something like people complaining about open source projects. They say it doesn't have the features I want, so I'm not going to put any money into it. Well, if you put money into it, they'll put the features in you want. So it's sort of like a chicken or egg scenario, right? So pick a project that's got most of what you like, that looks like it's got a lot of momentum, and invest some time and some code and some money into it, and it will become the thing you need. Let's see. Moving right along, there's some surge suppression 101 out there, which I think is slightly interesting. I only glazed over it. I need to go back and look at it a little bit, but it gives you kind of the ins and outs of how the surge suppression stuff works. A little bit of industry news. Extreme picks up Brocade's routing access or assets. I know this is old news, but we're kind of just now getting around. Um, so, who was it that bought Brocade again? Was that Broadcom? Wasn't it?
Broadcom, Qualcomm, some of the it is
Yeah,
one of the
I think it was
Broadcom.
Broadcom
Yeah,
picked up Brocade,
yeah,
but I think from my understanding they really wanted them for uh, the fiber channel assets or something like that. So they immediately decided to sell off kind of the routing assets and the wireless. Who's it? Ruckus? Is that who they owned?
yeah. Yeah, like they had just bought Ruckus for some huge amount, and then within 6 months they turn around and sell the whole company to Broadcom.
Yeah, and so now they're
They,
unloading those assets, and they've have landed in Extreme's pond,
yeah,
which
yeah. There's someone's gone to Eris, some's gone to Extreme now. There's still other parts that are up for sale that haven't gone yet. Um, ultimately, yeah, I think it was just an intellectual property play. They just bought them to get their patents and knowledge, and to not compete with their existing clients, they're going to shed all the actual manufacturing.
yeah, it's a smart move. And um, the fiber channel stuff, there's a lot of life stuff. There's a lot of life left still in that, So even if it seems like a dying industry, they can just ride it into the ground and make a ton of money off of it until it's gone, and then ride off the bones or ashes or whatever, and just keep trucking. Let's see what else we got. Unifi, AC In-wall. So who is that? Ubiquity announced a new kind of small. They call it in-wall. I don't know. It's about the size of an electrical plate, and it just mounts right in the wall. It looks like it's AC, so it's got dual bands. Going to do 5 gig, 2.4. It's PoE powered. It's got a PoE out port on it as well as just a standard data out port. Pretty cute. Goes right into the Unifi system, so you can manage all of these little dudes from a central, the central management portal. What else is interesting about these? Very small size, right? So it'd be good for like MDUs, I'm assuming.
Yet is an upgrade to their existing in-wall end that was only single band and
Mm-hmm.
extremely low power. This doesn't have much power, but um, believe they've talked more about that in our um, Wispapalooza 2016 Ubiquity Products video.
There you go.
Um,
So now
they,
they got a
they
little bit more out on it.
yeah, it probably means it's actually going to be shipping soon versus just sitting on the table.
Very cool. It's really cute. Looks good. Everybody loves the Unifi stuff. So it's pretty neat. Let's see. I guess one of the big ones and the biggest set of announcement stuff is the MUM that happened. It was the European MUM 2017. Where was that actually at? Was that Italy? Is
It
that
was
where?
in Milan.
There you go. I think I don't know. You were there. Yeah, you were there, Thomas.
Hmm.
And you had a booth. Unimus had a booth there.
Yeah.
I figured we would just kind of rattle down the product list really quick and say a few things about this and that. They announced the CSS Cloud Smart Switch. Is that what that stands for? Yeah, Cloud Smart Switch. I'm not even gonna. Yeah, all right, I will. It's the 326-24G-2S plus RM. I hate saying all these model numbers. Anyway, it's a 24 port gig switch with two SFP pluses, and it's POE, right? So it's is it AFAT? Does it both? I'm not sure.
It they've
That's
got
AFAT and passive. It's software selectable.
Sweet action, and it runs multi-port SWOS switch OS. Hopefully it's, and you're speculating, Thomas, that it's not the old switch OS that everybody hates. It's like probably something new and different.
So my speculation was originally I was really hoping that under the hood, the new SWOS, and Mikrotik actually calls it SWOS now, so even though it's SwitchOS or SVOS, they call it SWOS. So the new SwitchOS I was originally hoping would be just RouterOS on the backend, underneath a new GUI that would be really easy to use and user friendly. But it turns out that's completely not true. So it's still actually SwitchOS. It's full, the SwitchOS that we know from the days of old. It's just been, recompiled and upgraded for new hardware. And so I talked to Mikrotik about this, and basically also new switches from Mikrotik. They are, they are dual boot, so you can run RouterOS and SwitchOS on them. But most of new features for switches will be coming to SwitchOS first, and they didn't specify if the new features, new switching things would be SwitchOS only, but they definitely said that it will be SwitchOS first. Which actually to me is kind of a banner, and I'm just not happy about the choice that Mikrotik made at all. But that's just my personal opinion. So yes, it's the old SwitchOS. New switching features and new switching products and new switching functionality will be coming to SwitchOS first, but most of them will be dual boot, so you can just go back into RouterOS. But then RouterOS might not have all of the switching features that will be available in SwitchOS. And of course, SwitchOS doesn't have like the 99% of functionality and features that RouterOS has.
For pure switches, I really hope that they put the time and effort into the SWOS. Well, I'll go ahead and start forcing myself to say it, SWOS, to get all of the basic functionality there and make sure that it's bulletproof, because I think they're going to move a whole hell of a lot of these, and if they don't get it right, it's going to look really bad PR-wise, because they're putting a $139 price tag on these things, MSRP, right? So I'm going to be expecting these for $125. So 24 port gig that does passive, AF, AT, and has two SFP plus uplinks. I don't know of any other switch that's coming in at that price point. Do you? Or even close to it? All right. So
no.
I don't think the POE one is that cheap. I think the POE one is a bit more expensive. Just the non-POE one is that cheap.
Is it? So they're doing a non-POE version as well? And that's the one that's $139?
Yeah, the 139 one is without POE. Yeah.
That's still really cheap.
Yeah, it's good price. It's not there are not as cheap but comparable products out there, but not as cheap.
Yeah.
My personal beef with this, and of course I talked to the Mikrotik guys at the MOM about this, is that SwitchOS currently is missing just so many things that it's missing that RouterOS already has. So my personal fear, and then of course Mikrotik listened to this, and I made my case to them that you can run into a vicious loop where you want the product, the hardware with the new switching features that are available on SwitchOS, but then you want things which are available only in RouterOS, like even SNMPv3. Like SwitchOS still has SNMPv1, right? And then of course Radius and LLDP, and actually being able to manage it through something else than just web, because SwitchOS only has that web interface and all of those things. So you can run into a situation when some things are only in SwitchOS that you need, and some things are only in RouterOS which you need. But of course, only time will tell how Mikrotik, what will actually happen with SwitchOS in the future.
Yeah, it's that three legs of the triangle thing, right? It's like fast, cheap, or reliable, or something like that, right? It's just all kind of, you can pick two things, but you can't have all three. And so is it going to be feature rich, or is it going to be cheap, or is it going to be, have all the port densities that we need? At some point there'll be some parity, I guess, but just not yet. Let's see. There's a lot more stuff they have. They are starting to do some 6 gigahertz stuff now. Dynadish 6 and SXT 6, which I think a lot of people were surprised about.
60.
6 also.
Yeah, 6 gigahertz gear.
Oh, I guess I didn't care about those, so I forgot about them.
Yeah. They don't. Do we even do 6 gigahertz in the States? Is that a thing here?
6 gig is licensed, and there's very strict requirements. You need a fairly good performing 3-foot dish as the minimum dish that will be allowed in 6 gigahertz. So it is impossible to use an SXT or that dish.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I guess that's for other markets then. Let's see what else. They have the Cloud Router Switch, the CRS 317 dash. What is that? Is that an IG or a 1G? Anyway, dash 16S plus. It's something. There's a thing in there. That's basically a CRS that's 16 port SFP switch. Next generation switch chips. They're claiming full wired speed on 10 gig. I said that's if you're just switching. Hardware base, spanning tree, dual boot, SwitchOS or RouterOS. So this is again what Thomas was talking about, where you can, on some devices, you can choose to boot into SwitchOS or RouterOS, but there's no feature parity between the two. So you have to kind of pick which one supports the features you want and or need. The WAP LTE kit. So it's a WAP with an LTE card, does 2G, 3G, optional external antennas. Comes with stand mount. That's kind of cute. Wow.
It does not run any LTE bands I care about.
All right, fantastic. They have the HAP Mini as well, which is another one of those design departures, right? So it looks really good. I mean, it like aesthetically, it looks really good. It's tiny. It's only got a 2 gigahertz radio in there. Only 3 Ethernet ports as well. Hopefully
it's so tiny.
Is it? They said what, 8 centimeters tall.
It's so tiny.
I'm not sure what that is in American, but it's pretty little.
I think that's like 3.5 inches, something like that.
All right, super tiny. So it's just a weird sort of. Is this sort of between the map and the HAP Lite? I guess it's sort of in between those two.
I do like the slide where they show the HAP Mini being like 6 times the size of the HAP Lite, or the HAP.
Yeah, I think they messed up on that a little bit.
Despite it being small.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks cute though. It looks really cute. It'd be good to keep a couple of these in your bag, I guess, just in case. Let's see. Moving on, the RB1100 AHX4. I think a lot of people seem to be fairly surprised that they're continuing on with this line. That they're just growing it. So it looks just the same, but it's got a quad. What is this? An Annapurna Alpine CPU, 1.4 gig. 2 internal SATA 3 ports, 2 M.2 ports. They have a version that's called like the Dude version, I think, that's got a 60 gig SSD built in.
Yeah.
Hardware accelerated IPsec, neg 48 volt DC telecom power built straight into it. It doesn't even eat up one of the PSU slots, and now it's got dual power supplies as well. You guys
with one of those like cable holders too, so it can't just fall off.
Oh yeah. That kind of goes over the back of it. Are you guys excited about this? Do you run a lot of 1100s?
I don't know if to be excited or not, because like if it didn't have the 1100 name, I'd be like, this sounds like a great product.
I
But it has that name, so I'm like, so like, why did they do that?
I run a couple of them, and I haven't really had
Yeah,
any problems with them. But they're notorious for one or two of the ports, right? It's like 11, 12, or 13 is somewhat problematic on the old version.
yeah. Like I've got a lot of 1100s and some 1200s out there, like probably more than any other um, any other router I have. But it's like they stopped making those, or well, they stopped being worthwhile years ago, and it's like they're just resurrecting an old brand. And if you didn't know any better, you'd think it was the same thing because the front looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it does. So I guess aesthetics wise, if you've sort of standardized on the 1100, I mean that footprint, that you're going to be able to keep moving forward with everything in the same way you did before. I mean, it looks
Yeah,
fairly
I mean,
similar, just beefed
it's
up.
yeah, it just looks the same but better.
So for me, we actually have a ton of 1100s, like really a lot, and they've been rock steady. They've been stable, working great for years now. And I wonder if, the choice to resurrect the old name aside, I wonder if we will be starting to see more high-end products replacing the CCRs, replacing the tile architecture. And
Gotcha.
this is just pure speculation, of course. But since we know that tile itself, has basically over the years stopped being supported and been replaced by more popular and other technologies in the enterprise. Tile and Tilera by themselves, since they were bought and all the market acquisitions and everything. And I could be mistaken, but I think Tile is even completely unsupported already.
Oh wow.
And this might not be true, but I seem to remember reading somewhere that Tile is not even supported anymore. So I wonder, and as I said, pure speculation, if we are slowly, we'll be seeing more and more these higher-end Mikrotik products which are built on ARM and slowly start replacing Tile. And I think perhaps the 1100 AHX4 is first of those new products.
And that makes sense. Build upon a name everybody knows and trusts, and a lot
And
of the
separated from the CCRs.
yeah, yeah, true story. I
It
mean, that makes a lot of sense.
it and yeah, there's no official pricing out, but you know how Rock Knock will typically speculate at the pricing and just because like when the 1072 came out, he had a price on it right away, and asked him about it. He's like, yeah, I think it's gonna be around here. I don't really know. I've just been guessing at Mikrotik pricing, and I've been pretty close. But they have the Dune edition, which has the hard drive and some other stuff at $349, which is $75 less than the CCR 107.
I don't think 7 is sold anymore. 10.9.
Or
10.09
well,
is the lowest model.
well, yeah, 9-7G. It's the new version of the 9 that has the combo port.
Yeah, I guess
It
the
was
only
for
downside is you have no optical interfaces on this thing,
no opticals,
which is kind of a
but
pain in the butt for me.
I I think what'll be the deciding factor if this thing's worth a darn or not is um, what the block diagram ends up looking like.
Mm-hmm.
How many, how are the ports connected at how big of speeds?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at unless they're just recycling imaging, the mock-up image they have shows Group 1 and Group 2, so I'm assuming they have the chips broken up, the first five and the second five into two separate switch chip
Sure,
groups.
sure, yeah, but like on the 3011, it has two groups, but they have 2 gigs going to the backplane instead of 1.
Mm,
So, yeah,
just see how it all.
yeah, it'll be interesting. So I'm gonna guess if the one with the hard drive is 349, the one without, what, 300? Just guess.
Sounds fair.
See, that's not a terrible price.
I mean, to me personally, the Dude edition is just sorry, Mikrotik, but that's just a laughable product. And this goes into my opinion on the Dude and on how your monitoring system should even look like, because let's not even start this debate. But I think running your monitoring system on a router is just not a good choice. Therefore, introducing a new product which is specifically aimed, it's a router, but it's also now an appliance that's supposed to run your monitoring system.
Gotcha.
And that to me is a strange choice. Maybe it will work out for Mikrotik, maybe not. But for me, this is a very, very strange product.
So when they launched the 1100 AH NetXMS edition, you're gonna jump on that bandwagon?
I wouldn't even then, because just like even backups, how do you backup this thing? Currently, you don't have the power of Linux that you have with a normal system where you deploy it and you can do anything from backups through replication, through high availability, through all of those. A router is a router. It's not meant to run applications.
I know. I just like winding you up a bit. What were you gonna say, Mike?
The current list price for the AHX2 is $349.
Huh.
So if Rocknock's price is accurate, you'll be getting a much bigger, better box, assumingly, for the same price or less.
Gotcha. So it's pretty much just a 1-for-1 replacement.
And then you get the 3011s at $180. So figure that not Dude edition, if it's 300, it's kind of a nice gap between a 3011 and a CCR.
All right. So something else that Mikrotik announced is the PowerBox Pro, and this looks very akin to something Ubiquiti just put out. I can't remember what it's called, but it looks like a box you put up on a tower. It looks like it's got basically a hex inside, 5 ports of POE out, AFAT, and it's got an SFP port. So you can basically run fiber up to this thing, power it, and then he can POE to your radios. Power output for your CPEs. I'm assuming you could use this up on a tower, right? Or maybe this thing just doesn't have enough theoretical throughput to be useful on a tower. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, confusing. Because so you have the SFP for fiber to the tower. So that's bringing in your fiber backhaul. That's not, at least in the US, that's not a very common thing to have, where you would drop it into essentially a hex PoE. I mean, if you've got fiber to the tower, you're dropping it into a CCR or something sturdy. It seems like a little bit lightweight on the on the power side to have fiber coming into it.
Well, you could look at this like just a switch, right? So you could probably crank on all the switch chips, and then you've got, theoretically gig, right? So you could have all of your APs gigged in, and then it's just gigged down to the base, and then it's a PoE switch in that instance, I guess.
Also, this thing will have no problem doing a gig in MPLS.
Yeah, well, there you go. So it could, you could stick it up on a tower and have it power some sectors or, some directionals or whatever.
Fancy media converter?
Yeah. So you get tower. All right, now something that I saw for the first time here, and I'm sure you guys have discussed it, but it's the MUPS, the MUPS. It looks like a smart POE injector is what they're calling it. So it looks like a POE injector that has a battery backup built into it. Is that pretty much it?
More confusing.
Please, Mikrotik, if you're listening to this, send me a few units for testing. I really want to get my hands on this.
It says can
I can imagine
and monitor.
Yeah, I can imagine so many applications for this, but I don't yet know what it can do and what it cannot do.
Is there an IP address on this thing? Can you?
Yeah, it's actually a normal router board.
What?
But with an addition of, as far as I understand it, it's a normal router board, with an addition of charging and discharging and power distribution unit that you can actually connect the battery to, and it will, either power something off it or charge the battery when there is utility power and all of those things.
All right, so that was in no
I
way
see.
conveyed in the slide. So,
That's how I understood the product. It might be something else. That's why I'm saying I really want to get my hands on this and
the
see
slide
what
does
it
says
can do, what it is.
can charge and monitor, and I was like, I was trying to figure out, does that mean it's like remotely monitorable, or is it just sort of the electronics are monitoring the battery float, or I mean, what is it doing? So that's interesting.
I think it will just be in normal router as SNMP under health. So, just read it from SNMP.
Well, that's actually far more interesting than I thought it was. There you go.
Yet, yeah, like I can see it at like an extremely micro pop, or like CPE, in a WISP world, other applications, get cameras or things like that. Too small for like a full tower usage.
Yeah. Well, it seems like if you were gonna use these on the CPE side at somebody's house, it would have wireless AP built in as well, right? So it could be kind
No,
of a wireless
for
remote.
us, it's, for example, for IP camera systems, it's wonderful. If you just need to have a 1, 2 cameras in a remote location, or it depending on how you design your city-wide camera system and all of that, for that it's wonderful. For microcells, it might also be really interesting, because for a microcell you can easily put in a battery which can hold the microcell alive for 6 hours or so without a problem, and this could actually charge it and distribute it and monitoring and all of that. I mean, I can really think of 50 different use cases for us where it would be really useful, where currently we use different electronics and a bunch of different things to do it. And if this could all, again, I don't know what it can do, but if it is what I imagine it is, then it could for us replace a lot of electronics and a lot of custom boards we have for battery charging and monitoring and all of that. So,
With all that said, why didn't they build this kind of functionality into like the power box up there where you have 5 PoE outs?
who knows?
Because that would be really cool. Because then you could do what I mean, a micro pop where you have a backhaul radio and then you've got like an OmniTick, right? So
Yeah.
you need to PoE power 2 devices and have backup power. So I guess in theory you could just add 2 of these things, but it would be nicer if you had one one ring to rule them all, sort of thing.
I mean, you could still power a power box from this. I know, but
Yeah.
maybe it will be the next product in this line if this picks up. Who knows?
Yeah, or with the OmniTicks, don't they have a PoE pass-through in this
Yeah,
stuff?
they do. Yeah,
So you
there's
could,
only things which have 4 PoEs out as well.
all
Yeah.
right, so you could power the OmniTick and then also the backhaul radio for the micro pop, and this thing could be the power source slash backup. All right, there you go. See, that would theoretically
Assuming
work.
you can get enough power via PoE to power all these devices
Yeah, yeah.
over a single wire.
Right. I guess, and your runs need to be short enough. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. We'll just have to wait and see when it hits the market. Um, let's see. There's also, and again, this is one I'm not sure on this. This is really perplexing to me. The LTAP Mini. It's got a 2 gigahertz access point built in a rugged case, mini PCIe for LTE, built-in GPS, serial port for other devices, perfect for cars or outdoor mobile applications. Could that be any more confusing? What is the use case?
It's Mikrotik getting into automotive.
Yeah.
Smart cars, connected cars, GPS system for car tracking, and even connectivity to the car, computers that actually give you statistics and, like gas mileage and all of that from the car. It's Mikrotik trying to get into automotive,
So
which
that
is really interesting.
Does that mean? Well, I mean, but if you're going to get to that GPS stuff, you have to do that in a convenient way for your software or whatever, right? So does that mean they're opening some of that stuff up? I guess the
No, you can
API
just
would
read it.
theoretically.
You can just read it over SNMP or API or whatever
Yeah,
SSH.
that makes sense. And I guess the serial port, they already give you the ability to control a serial port remotely.
Yes, so you can have actually a serial pass-through. So
Yeah,
you just SSH or telnet, and it actually drops you straight onto the serial line.
picks it up and goes. That's interesting. So you could also use this for out-of-band management, right? At some site.
For
Yeah.
all kinds of different things, yeah. But I think
It,
mainly it's an automotive
Yeah,
product.
yeah. They said perfect for cars and stuff like that. That's what I
but
figured.
but the but where or what this really needs though to pick up the I should probably get back on the camera to pick up the horse to get beaten again is version 7 because of the there's a bunch of LTE stuff that they're not going to be doing until version 7.
Interesting.
So they keep making LTE hardware that is really needs version 7 to shine. So come on, let's
I
go.
wonder if God, what's that guy's name? His name's falling right out of my head. He's the guy that runs the big sugarcane farm in Florida. What's
Pat
his name?
Harris.
Pat Harris. Golly, that fell right out of my head. This is kind of what he was doing with his tractors. His big network
Yeah.
supports all those tractors. I bet this sort of thing would at least be interesting to him, not even if it's not something he could use. Um, and kind of tied in with that is I guess right along with that is the LTAP. It's got two mini PCI slots, so I guess you could do two LTE cards in there. It's got a 2.4 AP built in, 880 megahertz CPU, two MMCX connectors, built-in GPS, and it looks very industrial. And so I'm assuming
It,
it's just the bigger version of that little mini device.
Yet, and then that you could have an LTE card for 2 different carriers, so you can always maintain you know data connectivity back home. I wonder what the MMCX goes to. Does it go to? Is it going through to the to the mini PCIs? Is it for the AP? Is it for the GPS? All the above?
Hmm.
Where does that go?
I guess we have to wait for the block diagram.
It's interesting nonetheless. Or I guess maybe they've done an FCC filing. Would it have the block diagram on any of that stuff?
I haven't seen one yet.
All right. I mean, it's got a radio in it, so don't you have to file that stuff with the FCC
Yeah.
before you can? All right. So maybe
At
that stuff
at
could be.
I get emails whenever certain vendors have a new FCC ID. So
There you go. Let's see. Moving right on the list. WSAPAC Lite. So this looks like a very familiar announcement that Ubiquiti just made. It looks just like the Ubiquiti In-wall. So mount into standard EU or US electrical sockets. So it's that form factor, right? Fits in kind of a electrical plate. Dual band AC, phone jack pass through, 2 LAN ports, USB for charging phones, which I thought was cute. They added a little charging port onto it. And it looks like the Ethernet ports have kind of a screw-on cover as well, if you want. So that's pretty neat.
at and then this is clearly targeted to the hospitality, or maybe MDU industries. I would hope that they would have protection on those USBs.
I hope.
Someone can't just
I was gonna say, I hope if somebody plugs in their phone, you can just backdoor in through the router OS and jump into their phone, get into their file system, pull all their movies and their pictures off their phone.
No, it says a charging port, so hopefully the data is completely disconnected.
Or maybe you just use everybody's LTE off their phones and you just create just a big shotgun network based off of everybody's phone tethering. I don't know, but
there you go.
the case design I think actually looks really nice. It looks really clean. The vent holes, they use kind of a honeycomb pattern. It's kind of
It
curvy. It looks nice.
it looks like something that you would see in a hotel or other commercial building for sensors of one kind or another. For the HVAC system or
Yeah.
fire systems or it looks like it belongs there.
Yeah, it looks very much like a thermostat or something like that. It's
Yeah.
very smooth and sleek and inconspicuous for sure. It's not all square and angles like they normally are. So it's nice. Um, let's see. They have the WAP 60G, so they're getting into the 60 gig game. That millimeter wave action. Looks like full gig duplex, 1 gig duplex, right? So you can do it both directions. Wireless wire kit pre-configured. That's cute. Wireless wire kit. I'm assuming that means it's pre-configured so you can just slap it up and it'll be bridged together, which is
Yeah,
it's going to be good for a lot of installers and integrators. I know they'll be able to just take them without having to have any knowledge of the system. Um,
yeah. The
targeted.
interesting,
Go ahead.
the interesting thing on that is that Ubiquiti had a product a few years ago that came pre-configured. Two units talk to each other only, and they no longer have that product. Apparently, nobody wanted it. So hopefully, people want this one.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm really interested to see what the price point's going to look like. Um,
I believe I saw in the video because I watched the live stream and then I didn't watch it live. I had to watch it later. I believe the price point they responded with was between $100 and $1,000.
a very
Yeah,
Mikrotik of them.
that was the response when I asked at the desk, what's it gonna cost? Between 100 and 1,000.
They're
It's
ridiculous.
yeah, that's okay. That's where I would expect it to be.
Is that 100 for a pair?
Can we narrow that? True.
Yeah.
Are they
So
sold in pairs?
yeah. So the WAP 60G, the small guys, because it's a WAP, right? Think of the WAP, that small form factor. It's designed for 100 meters. So basically the distance of an Ethernet cable. So if you're trying to go across a road, or that's like what, 325 feet, something like that. So it's a decent little distance. So you could hit an outbuilding, hit something across a lot of concrete. So I'm assuming it's going to be fairly inexpensive. The good thing about 60 gig, right, is that frequency doesn't penetrate very well. So hopefully you're not going to have a lot of interference issues or anything like that with this stuff. Let's see, and then you have the LHG 60 gig, which is a much larger kind of dome-based setup. Works 60 gig, familiar LHG design. Yeah, it looks just like the other ones. Quad-core ARM CPU, low cost and low weight. Longer distance
It,
than 100 meter. So one is 100 meter, this one is longer distance. So they don't really give you an ideal target for that. I'm
it,
assuming it's going to be just like everybody else's stuff, right, Mike?
I mean, I've got some 60 gig gear up. I'd like to get some more up. There's 5 or 6 vendors out there now doing 60 gig multi-point,
Hmm.
which I wonder if that's a possibility if you could reconfigure the WAP so that's such a low gain antenna given its size. Well, comparatively, if you could configure that as an access point and the LHG as a client and do 60 gig multi-points.
Hmm.
But yeah, I wonder what the gain is on that antenna. That will determine, that and the price will determine how useful it is.
Well, they're saying
'Cause,
Q2, Q3 on these things, so we should hear something a little bit more from soon.
yeah, well, we're in Q2 already, so
Yeah. So we're
soon.
yeah soonish. It's interesting. I'm really optimistic about these things. So I know what's the next cheapest? Probably the IgniteNet stuff, the MetroLink for 60 gig.
Yeah, IgniteNet. They've got a 42 dB version is like 550. Like a 35 dB version is I think like 500. But they are coming out with like a $300 product at some point.
Wow.
They don't like it's because that was their target when they started on the whole 60 gig thing in the first place, was to do 60 gig multi-point and then to make and then to have a CPE that was actually priced where you could do it for a residential install. So we'll see where this falls with that.
That's cool. You have any interest in the 60 gig stuff, Thomas?
Depends on the price. If the price is right, then yeah, I can see a bunch of deploys that we could use this for. But it would be really interesting for camera systems, for IPTV, where you actually put IPTV on like utility poles, and then you wouldn't have to pull fiber to the poles anymore. You could actually do it with this, but it just all depends on price. Because
Yep,
I can imagine it actually going from pole to pole with this would be cheaper than, of course, pulling fiber. So it just depends.
yeah, yeah, and then one other thing that I've noted is that 1 gigabit full duplex. I don't believe any of the multi-point platforms will do 1 gig. Well, none of the low-cost platforms will do 1 gig full duplex. They're getting closer, but none of them will do that yet. So maybe Mikrotik will be the first that actually gets a full 1 gig duplex at a low price point.
Nice. It's fun to speculate. All right, there's still more products. The CRS 112 8P4S. It's a small 8 port POE gig, and that's AFAT. It says separate PSU for passive or 802.3 AFAT POE out. That's interesting. So it's got two little jacks on the back, one for passive and one for AFAT stuff. Per port
Yet,
auto detection of AP standard.
yeah, well, and then it just appears to be two different voltage ranges.
Yeah.
High voltage, low voltage. I did notice they have a lot of AFAT products. That's one thing that I remember hearing a lot of people wanting is AFAT, and they seem to have a lot of those now.
Yeah, man, they're getting with it. It's also got 4 SFP ports, so that's cool.
Good. 4 SFPs, good.
And then they've got a Papa Bear version of that. Cloud Router switch. I don't even feel like reading the model number, but it's a 24 port version of the exact same thing.
Except now it has SFP plus ports too.
Oh, those are SFP plus. All right.
So you could daisy chain and not lose capacity relatively.
Very nice. Let's see. And then they've got another version. God, they got so many.
Yeah.
No, that's the same version. They're basically saying it's the dual boot, Switch OS, Router OS.
But only a single power supply.
That's nice. 4 SFP plus, one regular 120, 220 volt connector. So nothing weird.
Like that would be nice if it was a dual power input.
Oh, what the hell is this thing? They have something called the Womb. Woobum?
I thought it was a joke at first.
Or wireless out of band management. It looks like a USB dongle. Plug into a device to have a new management AP. Can work as client to use in CCR rack mounts. So, what is this thing?
So the use case is actually it's a very tiny USB drive that you can actually hang onto your keys or whatever, and you can plug it to any Mikrotik USB, and then it will broadcast wireless that you can connect to, and over that wireless you will actually have the console.
Does it do anything other than console?
No, it's just out-of-band console that you can just plug this into a USB port, and then suddenly you have a console.
So it works on Mikrotiks.
It works on Mikrotiks, yes. Or you can buy many of them and then switch them into a client mode, so you can have like 10 CCRs and then buy 10 of those, plug it into each CCR, connected all of the 10 into an access point, and you have out-of-band management.
Does it work just on CCRs right now?
Supposedly any Mikrotik with a USB port.
Really? I didn't know they had like USB serial capabilities built into them.
Well, you can actually, even right now, you can buy a USB to serial converter and plug it into a Mikrotik USB, and you will have a serial.
So then, does it just expose, does it do like the Mikrotik, as you were saying earlier, the SSH or Telnet redirect to the serial port?
I don't know. They didn't have it showing on the product demo table, unless I missed it, but I'm pretty sure they didn't show it. I would imagine it will be a web interface that you connect to, and it will have a console, a
Man,
CLI.
see why they don't just have like a brick that's got a whole bunch of USB ports that you could just and then have that one brick you connect to. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, having one like on your keychain or something, I can see it being useful. But I mean, if I want to have a full rack of CCRs in and out, out of band management connectivity console, then I personally would just buy a console server and be done with it. But this is an option too, and it's supposed to be very, very cheap. So I wonder what that means.
That's cool. Maybe we can hack them and do some interesting things with them. Let's see. They've also got the M2, which is just a bare router board, 4-core, 880 megahertz CPU, one mini PCI, 1 gig Ethernet. So that's like a CPU, right?
M11.
Oh, is that an 11? All right.
Yeah,
I
because you
couldn't
get
tell if it was eyes or
one wireless,
wireless.
one Ethernet.
All right.
Yeah, it's the successors to the 711 and 911 series.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, and the other one's the M33. It's the
And
same
that's the
4-core.
successor to 433.
Yeah, it's got the 3 gig, 2 mini PCI, and 1 M.2 slot. USB 3 and serial support. Nice. And that was it. Holy crap. That was a lot of stuff, man. Let's see. What was the... Most of it said Q2 or 3 if it had a time frame on it at all. I think the vast majority of it didn't have any time frame for release on it. Just kind of scrolling through, so who knows. It's interesting though.
A lot of products, a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of new market segments, the automotive, the 60G, the 6G. It looks very interesting.
All right, man. We squeezed all that stuff pretty tight into an hour. I say we stick a fork in it and then just pick up with a little bit of other stuff here next time. You guys cool with that?
Good.
Excellent. Silence is acceptance. All right. Mr. Tomas Kernak from Slovakia. If people want to get a hold of you on the internet, how do they do that?
Yeah, pretty easy to find. Just Google for me, find me, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah,
Just Google for me and you'll find me.
you're supposed to say go to Unimus, buy my product, and then look me up.
Yes, please do that.
Mike, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
I suppose probably our Facebook, and then I'll take it from there.
Yeah. So the keeper of Facebook is Mike Hammett. So all of this great material, most of these updates, pretty much 99.9% of all the updates that hit the Brothers Wisp is via Mike. Also, if you're a vendor and you're interested in having him evaluate any products, Mikrotik, send your stuff to Thomas. Everybody else, send your stuff to Mike. He loves to try out new things.
I will give a very
Impartial evaluation? Is that what you're looking for?
you will not be wondering what I think of the product.
Because he will blast it on the internet.
No, I always go private first, and if private fails, then I go public.
Right.
And if that fails, I keep going public.
Sure.
And I will take other vendor stuff too. I don't have a problem with that.
Thomas will take your stuff too. But no, seriously. Any vendor opportunities? We don't get paid for this. We're looking to hit more shows. If you guys want to help us out, we'd be happy to take your monies. Let's see what else. I can be reached at gregsoul.com. It's my almost defunct blog. I still occasionally put stuff on there. If you have any questions or comments for us, again, Facebook, the Brothers Wisp group, just look us up. Anything you put on there is going to get responded to very quickly. Mike is on it like crazy. Any messages that come through, we're pretty good at responding. If you're old school and you really feel the need, you can hit us at contact us at TheBrothersWISP.com if you want to do it email wise. Other than that, any questions, comments, please let us know. If you have something specific you want to hear about, there's probably 100 other people that want to hear about that same thing, and we're not going to know about it unless you tell us. So please reach out. If nothing else, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
See?